Good morning. What up, y'all? Ooh, I need more coffee. Gustavo, what's up? Nuances here. If you haven't given me a holler yet to let me know you're in the room, please make sure you drop a hi in the chat. We start in a minute or two. Y'all want to see the baby? Oh, Abby! Where's your sister? You're just much more responsible, Abigail. Wendy, what's up? Caitlin, good morning. Ashley, good morning. Got it, Brenda. Oh. It depends. Who are you, Mochi? I only like certain students. Hell. Guys, let me know who you are so I can give you credit for being here. Vic, you're alive. What's up, man? What up, Tracy? Oh, it's Marcella? Absolutely not. Well, I'm glad you randomly got a YouTube notification. Ariel, welcome. No, Marcella, man, I'm working on the donut situation. All right, I'm working on it. Well, I hear they have apps on your phone now where you can just order some, Marcella, you know. I go on, son. All right, we're gonna start in about 1 minute. Let me see if I can get a baby cameo. I know that's the content we need. We do. Who are you, Frank Pup? That's right, Brittany. Tell him. DoorDash your own donuts. I'm gonna need to send my wife out for donuts. Actually, there's this place near me in Pecan Grove that has like a maple bacon donut that's straight fire. Richard. Ooh, good turnout today. Yo, Frank Pup, who are you? I feel you, Brittany. That's why, Brittany, every time they screw something up, you just complain a lot, and then they give you like free stuff. Like my driver was like 10 minutes late once, and I complained, and they gave me $10. Good old DoorDash. You just gotta complain really loudly, and they just want to get you off the phone. Some places are starting to do no delivery fee too if you order enough. Did you complain, Marcel? Get on the chat, man. They're a new company. They're competing with like Uber and a bunch of other places. So like usually they'll give you like a credit of some kind for your next order. Gotta complain, man. Gotta complain. All right, let's see if we can do a baby cameo before we get started. Look who I got. Say hi. Say hi. Say hi. Say hello. Oh. Oh, do you see the people? Do you see the people? Oh, oh, oh. Say hi, AP History students. Say hi. Say, my papa must like you guys a lot because instead of taking care of me and playing with me, he's here with you guys. Oh, I know. I know it. I know it. Baby, little human. Okay, say bye. Say bye. Say bye. Say bye. Yeah. Yeah. Say work hard today. Say work hard. Say you guys work hard. Alrighty. Right, Stephanie? Right? Can you believe that? Yeah, she is pretty cute. Little human. Alright, let me make sure I got everyone here for attendance. I think so. I think. Oh, Stephanie. Gotcha. Alrighty. Yep, I got it. Frank Pup, I still don't know who you are, so like, you know, I would get you credit for being here, but you remain mysterious. Alright, today's sort of primary topic and focus is going to be the DBQ. We'll revisit short answer questions because that's obviously a big chunk of our free response. But I do want to make sure that we spend a good chunk of time on the DBQ. It is, 25% of your exam score. So it's a pretty big chunk. All right. The DBQ and the first short answer questions section are going to be, 45% of your exam score. So we're going to continue to focus on sort of the DBQ and the short answers. We will do a little bit on multiple choice. But in my experience, most students do around average or slightly above average on the multiple choice. No matter what we do. The multiple choice is just most students who take the AP World and AP US History exam, no matter like where they are, who they are, the students tend to all perform around the average. So a little bit below, a little bit above. But in general, it's what we call in statistics a tight distribution. I think about 200 to 300,000 students take each test. And like a good chunk, over half of them, will score like within 5% of the average. So in general, multiple choice isn't going to sort of move the needle on your overall score. So I wouldn't stress out too much about the multiple choice. The biggest key with the multiple choice is moving quickly. So we will do a little bit of practice with that, just like tips on how to speed up your analysis and the whole process. But we are going to focus primarily on the writing. So DBQ. All right, let's start by just sort of refreshing our memory about the rubric. All right, you get 1 point for the thesis. All right, Now, you really need to start looking at the thesis point as less of a scary thing, like, oh my God, I don't know how to start my essay, and more like an opportunity. With a couple good sentences at the beginning of your essay, you can sort of get yourself a point, get some momentum going, all right, and really be in business. There's a point for contextualization. That's sort of situating your argument by explaining the broader historical events, developments, or processes immediately relevant to the question. All right, we'll talk more about that in just a second. All right, you get 1 point for describing 3 documents, something that the College Board refers to as using the content of at least 3 documents. Basically, you need to summarize a part of a document in your own words. Then 1 point for explaining how 6 documents support the argument. All right, so in this case, we can't just sort of paraphrase and describe, all right, the evidence. We need to then explain how it supports our argument. And then in that case, if we do it 6 times, we earn another point. All right, you then get 1 point for what the College Board refers to as evidence beyond the documents. All right, an example or additional piece of specific evidence not mentioned, all right, in the documents must support your argument. For you APUSH folks, all right, the outside evidence has to come from the same time period. So be aware of that, my APUSH folks. That's why we have that nice little organizer with all sorts of specific evidence on it to make sure that we're in the right time period. All right, AP World, it is probably most appropriate to have specific evidence from the same time period. The College Board has been known to be lenient, though, for you AP World folks because of just how much history there is. But try to make it from the same time period. I'd rather be safe than sorry. Then there's sourcing, and then there's complexity. Now, you may have noticed that I highlighted 3 points here. All right, if we recall, all right, the goal, sort of like the minimum passing score, so to speak, all right, is 3 points out of 7 on this rubric. All right, if you can get 3 points, all right, on the DBQ, then you put yourself in position to pass the exam overall. All right, ideally, all right, in an ideal world, all right, we're getting 4 points. But 3 is sort of like the minimum bar that you can set. Now, some of y'all, especially here in this tutorial, are going to be sort of shooting for higher AP scores. You don't want to just pass. You want to do well. Remember that the AP exam, all right, is curved overall on a scale of 1 through 5. All right, multiple choice is 40% of your score. Wait. Yes. All right, SAQ section 1, all right, is 20%. DBQ is 25%. All right, and then SAQ section 2, all right, is 15%. So they're going to take your scores for all those, they're going to put it through some fancy math, all right, then they're going to give you a scale score one through 5. All right, 3, all right, is the passing score. All right, 4 equals like commended. All right, 5 equals you're a legend. All right, I don't know what the College Board language for a 5 is. It's not legendary, but I think legendary is cooler, so we're going to go with that. All right, so if you want to get like a 4 or 5 on the AP exam, then you really need to be getting like around 5 points on the DBQ. All right, but if we're really just looking to pass and get some college credit, all right, then at least a 3. All right, 3 out of 7 points. And I've highlighted those points for you because these are the points I think that even if we're struggling with the DBQ, they're points that I think we can all get. All right. Now, I do want to emphasize, especially for you AP World folks, paragraphs, man. Come on now. All right. We're sophomores in high school. All right. Hopefully my juniors haven't forgotten to write paragraphs, I would hope. All right. Remember, your first paragraph should contain the thesis, possibly your context as well. Start strong with the thesis point. All right. Now, in an ideal situation, we're using 6 to 7 documents, but on exam day, under pressure, all right, at least four. All right. And considering that this is a virtual exam, all right, and you will be able to have resources available to you, including your AMSCO book, all right, and notes and key concepts and like all sorts of things. You could literally have Teams open with all of our resources, all right? You need to get the outside evidence point on the DBQ. I swear to God, I will be really, really upset if we aren't prioritizing that point. What did I say, Stephanie? Sorry, it's a bit of a delay. Oh, the little book, Stephanie, it's a review book. You guys have your textbook. Don't worry about it, Stephanie. The AP World folks have like a condensed textbook. It's called AMSCO. Yeah, Caitlin remembers. Hey, Push, you have your textbook. It's not even cheating, Ions. The College Board knows this. That's why they adjusted the exam. That's why there's no LEQ. It's not, I do want to emphasize that the exam is designed in such a way that we know that students obviously have resources available. So it is going to sort of be more of a skill-based assessment. All right. Please note for the multiple choice, I'm going to be very clear. You don't have time to look up answers. All right. I mean, you can, but that would be really, really stupid. All right, because remember, 55 questions, all right, in 55 minutes. If you take 2 to 3 minutes per question, all right, because you're searching for answers, you will fail. I can guarantee it. You won't get through enough of the questions. So I do want to emphasize, You don't have time to do this on the multiple choice, but to your point, Brittany, the College Board knows it's an open note exam, and so it is the questions are written in such a way that having your notes out isn't going to make or break your score. I don't think so, Ions. I don't. The College Board actually, though, hasn't released a bunch of information about what the virtual exam space is going to look like. But I don't. I would be surprised. I think they'll probably have a lockdown browser. But again, that doesn't mean we can't have notes, books, etc. out. Print as many resources as you can. All right, but obviously we all have phones and stuff too, so But I would print stuff. All right, or copy notes on hard paper. And Caitlin, if you weren't here last time, I thought you were. Yeah, there's no LAQ. There's 2 short answer sections. Yeah, Stephanie, I would be surprised if they have a camera requirement. That would be a surprise to me. All right. So again, your point priorities are on the board. All right. We really should be emphasizing thesis. All right. We should make sure that we're describing at least 3 documents, and we should make sure we include outside evidence. Now, those are points that I'm confident given what I know about you guys, that every single person right here listening to this tutorial can earn those points. Like almost guaranteed. I feel really confident about that. No, Kaylin, I didn't mention it because it doesn't exist, but yeah. All right. So the thesis is really the key to your whole essay. We're going to work on how to sort of organize your thesis today, but it's really the key to the whole essay. If you can sort of present a clear argument in your thesis, it really sets you up for success in the rest of the essay. It helps you organize your thoughts, all right? And just make sure that you're beginning your essay with the thesis. Remember that your thesis should have 2 to 3 claims or 2 to 3 parts to your argument. All right, don't put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. All right, and then you can sort of use those claims to present as topic sentences in your body paragraphs. All right, so one thing that I also sort of will suggest to you guys is to add context. All right, either right after your thesis or right before. All right. We are not going to be working on contextualization a bunch today. No worries, Gabby. All right. But all right, if you get good at contextualization, you can earn 2 points. All right, in one paragraph at the very start of the essay. So we'll talk more about contextualization on another slide. All right, but this is a huge opportunity for us. In terms of scoring on the DBQ. All right. I mean, one good paragraph where you clearly present an argument and you sort of explain some background historical processes gets you 2 points. I mean, and again, our goal is a 3. The global average on the DBQ, all right, is usually, and I wouldn't even say usually, is almost always between 1.5 and 2.5 points. All right. So again, all right, getting a score of a 3 is a really good score, and you know, starting strong puts you in a really good position to be successful. All right. So we had our sort of, I'm going to call them the primary 3 or the priority 3 points. So our priority 3 thesis, all right, uses 3 documents. All right, remember, we're not quoting documents. We're describing them in our own words. All right, and then outside evidence. All right, those are our priority 3 points. All right, sort of the secondary points would be contextualization. All right, I know that's a hard skill, especially for some of you AP World folks, but I do think the more we practice, the better we'll get. But we're kind of running out of time. And then 6 documents connected to argument. That would be sort of your secondary points. Maybe sourcing. Some of y'all are getting really good at that. All right. Sorry, for some reason I paused my stream. I got confused. So when we're talking about how to use evidence, again, let's make sure that we're separating our evidence into body paragraphs. All right. You should always start with a topic sentence that restates your claim. All right. Then you want to describe the documents that you're using to support that argument. Make sure that you're using your own words. Do not quote. It is a waste of time. All right. Then you're analyzing the evidence. You're explaining how it supports your argument. You're explaining how it answers the prompt. This is the 3-step process we're looking for in constructing a body paragraph. Remember, you need to use at least 3 documents to score 1 point. You can use 6 to support an argument to score a 2nd point. All right, sourcing. We've been talking about that a little bit currently, the last few units in AP World. For you APUSH folks, this might feel like a lifetime ago. All right. Remember that sourcing we'll sometimes call HIP analysis. All right. If you do it 3 times, all right, you can earn a point for that. For some of us, maybe this is the secondary point that we want to start aiming for on the DBQ. All right, depending on how comfortable we are. Maybe we feel more confident about sourcing than we do contextualization, so we want to try to get the sourcing point instead. All right, I mean, I think the key for you guys as we attack the DBQ is to develop a strategy, all right, based on your strengths. All right, like know ahead of time what 4 to 5 points you are going to target. So maybe as much as you try, contextualization is just still hella confusing for you. So instead, maybe you want to focus on sourcing and put your time in that category. Remember that sourcing is explaining how or why the author's point of view, the author's purpose, the author's intended audience, and or the historical situation is relevant to your argument. So that's a whole bunch of words. So let's break that down a little bit. All right. When you're doing sort of sourcing, you want to describe one of the following. All right. And then briefly explain how it sort of is significant to the meaning of the document and or the argument that you're making. All right. So you can use historical situation to do source analysis of a document. All right. Look at the evidence. What year was it written? What is happening around that time period that might influence the document? So it makes sense that the author is saying such and such because the American Revolution was happening. That would be an example of using the historical situation to do source analysis of a document. You can also do intended audience, right? Who is it written for? How does that impact the document? Because this document was addressed to the king, the author might be sort of sucking up or only saying flattering things, and so might not be entirely truthful. Because the document was a private diary with an intended audience of just the author, it's likely that they are sort of being candid, they're being truthful, whatever. All right, all different ways to do that. You can also do purpose. Why was the document written? How does that impact our understanding of the evidence? Because the author was trying to persuade blank, they may have exaggerated blank and blank. All right, because they are giving testimony in a trial, all right, they might be lying so that they don't get punished. All right, that would be examples of using the purpose of a document to do source analysis. Lastly, the point of view. And by point of view, we don't mean like English, first, second, third person. By point of view, we mean like the background of the author. Rich, poor, male, female, are they a government official or an average citizen? Are they a scientist, etc.? Are they European? Are they not? Blah, blah, blah. All right, because the author comes from an upper class background, they may not fully, understand what's happening to other groups of people. Because they are a king, he feels this way. All right, you are kind of using the background of the author to explain what they are writing. So, again, I've presented the slides, various times throughout the year. So if you need another screenshot, now would be a time. The cool thing about screenshotting this slide now is like you get my face in the bottom right-hand corner, which will be fun. Be like, hi, screenshot, sourcing. All right. So my AP World folks, and maybe some of you APUSH folks remember this. We were doing an examination of child labor as we started to explore the effects of industrialization. And one of the sources that we were looking at was from this Dr. William Wotton, all right, testifying before the House of Lords in 1818. And And this doctor was pretty much going on and on about how through observing factory work, the doctor felt like there was no negative effects on the children. So, if you're like me, you're like, really? No negative effects? I love some of the testimony here. In observing the work of children, do you think that it tends to produce bad health? Have you observed any particular symptoms of disease? No, cannot say that I did. If a child was of delicate constitution, if they were just a fragile little lad, would you think 12 hours was too long? This is my favorite answer. The labor is so moderate, it can scarcely be called labor at all. They're hardly working, guys. And under those circumstances, I should not think there would be any injury. They're not going to get hurt working 12 hours a day. They're barely working. It's not even labor. Do you happen to know whether or not any particular effect is produced upon a child's frame that is kept standing longer than strength will permit? I'm not aware of any effect. If a child is kept, blah, 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 it goes on. Basically, the doctor just says, he doesn't think there's anything wrong with child labor. It's not hurting the kids, blah, blah, blah. And so this is a really good document to source because, even though it's a medical doctor, he's giving testimony to the House of Lords, which is the upper sort of class in British Parliament. And so we can sort of take a look at the audience or the point of view of the author here or the person giving testimony and use that to do source analysis. So if I was presenting this evidence in an essay, I might point out that the doctor is providing testimony to the House of Lords, and therefore it's possible he's underestimating the negative impact of child labor to basically tell his wealthy audience what they want to hear. All right, the House of Lords is like the nobility. They don't necessarily, they aren't necessarily prioritizing the well-being of the working class. And so they might even be benefiting from child labor if they have investments in factories. And so, I'm kind of doubtful that this doctor is being entirely honest, right? And we can also infer, especially because of the note here, this doctor examined people in the factory for the purpose of the testimony. He was probably paid to do so. And because he was paid to inspect a factory, it's possible that the factory owner bribed him to provide flattering testimony, or he was sort of persuaded to maybe look the other way. We can also just say straight up, he only visited the factory for a day. How can he be sure that there's no negative effects of child labor? So there's a lot of different ways to do source analysis there. All right. We also talked about how historical situation could be helpful. All right. This political cartoon would be relevant to you APUSH folks as well, because it's actually from an American political magazine. All right. That's why you see the whole Northern capitalist there. All right. And clearly, the cartoonist here is trying to make a reference to the slave trade, right? Because the children are sort of being on this auction block and being sold to these northern factory owners in the United States. Dang northern capitalists. So if I got an image like this in a DBQ, I could do some source analysis taking into account the historical situation. All right. Because the source was made in the middle of the 1800s, with the abolition movement gaining popularity, it makes sense that the artist depicts child laborers on an auction block, like enslaved individuals, to criticize the practice of child labor, to emphasize that child labor is similar to slavery, etc., etc. All right, that would be using the historical situation to do source analysis here. All right, contextualization. All right, that might be a point that you're prioritizing on your DBQ. All right, in the words of the College Board, so this is just verbatim from the College Board. Responses earn a point for contextualization by describing a broader, so think big picture, historical context relevant to the prompt. To earn this point, the response must accurately and explicitly
Connect the context of the prompt to broader historical events, developments, or processes that occur before, during, or continue after the time frame of the question. So for me, I like to think of context as sort of like background information, but it needs to be an historical development or process. And so when we're talking about a broad historical development or process, we mean something happening over an extended period of time, or I should say, in multiple regions. All right. By the way, and this applies to both you AP World and AP US folks, industrialization, all right, is a great example of an historical process / development. All right, that is a broad historical process or development, industrialization. All right, that is occurring over an extended period of time, all right, in multiple regions. All right, industrialization, if it's not mentioned in the prompt, would be really, really good potential context. Imperialism is another example. All right, for you U.S. folks, westward expansion. All right, great example. These are all things that we could use for context. Spread of religions, all right. Intensification of trade, all right. European exploration, all right. All examples of historical processes or developments. So for constructing context, I actually recommend that you attempt contextualization in a separate paragraph, either before or after your thesis. If you put it in the same paragraph, it's not a big deal. The reason I recommend a separate paragraph is just to remind you to try it. All right, if we get in the habit of writing DBQs with context in its own paragraph, it will usually remind you to try to earn this point. You might be saying, well, Hayes, like, I'm not going to forget. Like, maybe you AP US folks can chime in here, but like, when the time starts on that exam or on that essay, it's going to be a lot easier than you think to forget things. Just there's a lot of pressure. You're like looking at the clock. You're thinking of the prompt. Like, it can be very easy to forget things, information, parts of the essay, etc. So under pressure, we can sometimes forget even the most basic of things. And so by just getting in the habit of trying context in a separate paragraph, it might help you to remember to attempt this point. All right. Now, step by step, right? I always like to rephrase the prompt and just sort of start my body paragraph by identifying the historical development that we're going to be using. So, you know, whatever the topic of the prompt is, just start your paragraph by rephrasing it. Changes brought by Christianity in Latin America are best understood in the context of blank. In this case, European exploration would be really good, or the Protestant Reformation. Then you should describe the development in detail, all right? And in an ideal world, you're giving a sense of when it's occurring. So right before Christianity arrived in the Americas, or, you know, shortly after, or in the period, you know, 1492 to 1620 or whatever it is, all right? Give a sense of when it's happening and describe it. And then make sure that you're connecting it to the prompt. Explain how it's relevant to the topic. 3 steps. All right, we'll practice in just a second. Now, there are various types of prompts, all right, on the DBQ. All right. We don't know, I don't know until days after you take the exam what the prompt is. All right. But it can basically be covering 3 skills. All right, change in continuity, comparison, or cause and effect. If you get a change in continuity prompt, it's usually going to be evaluate the extent to which blank changed, blank transformed, blank led to change in the period blank. All right, Prompts will always include a time period. And this is going to help us, especially, all right, if we have organized notes by time period. All right, more on that in a second. All right. Comparative prompt is usually asking you to compare two things or two developments, whether they're similar or different. Usually the prompt is phrased, evaluate the extent to which blank differed from blank in whatever time period. All right. And then lastly, you can get a cause and effect prompt. Evaluate the extent to which blank caused blank affected blank, or evaluate the relative significance of causes and effects. Now, that's sort of a weird prompt, but it's okay. We're going to practice with it today. All right. If you get a prompt like that, they're basically just asking, what's the most important cause of blank? Or what's the most important effect? So don't get thrown off by that language. That's sort of a weird one. But that is one way they will sometimes ask, all right, comparative prompts. Cause and effect prompts. All right. Regardless of what we do, all right, please understand, all right, that if it is a DBQ prompt, they are all evaluative prompts, which basically means you're sort of making a judgment about how much. So how much something changed something, how much something differed from something else, how important a cause is, all right, how much it affected something else, all right. So understand that if the prompt is asking you about changes, you can say like things didn't change at all. You can certainly make an argument where you say like, you know what, there really weren't that many changes, or this didn't really lead to any change. In fact, things stayed the same, and here's what stayed the same. If the prompt is comparative and they're saying like evaluate the extent to which something differed from blank, just because they're using the word differed doesn't mean you need to only discuss differences. You can say, you know what, they didn't really differ. They were really actually quite similar, and here's why. All right, same thing with like important causes and effects. Just pick one as most important or least important. All right, we're about to break into our actual DBQ practice time, so we're coming to an end whole group here. All right, let's just talk about ways to sort of attack a prompt after we first read it. All right. Make sure that we're very clear on what skill they're testing. All right. Is it a change in continuity prompt? Is it a comparative prompt? Is it cause or effect? All right. Identify the topic of the prompt. What are they asking about? Christianity in Latin America, causes of the American Revolution, effects of the New Deal. What are they asking about? All right. Identify the topic. All right. And then make sure that you circle, well, I guess we don't have paper anymore. Just make sure that you make a note of the time period. All right? They're always going to give you a time frame in the prompt. All right? And if it's helpful for you to rephrase the prompt as a question, feel free to do so, because it might just be an easier way to brainstorm information. Maybe we want to get rid of some of that evaluate language because it confuses us. All right? Feel free to do that as well, although that's not necessary depending on your comfort level. All right. Once you've done that, just take 2 to 3 minutes before you even look at the evidence to just brainstorm the topic and the time period. What do I remember about industrialization? What do I remember about Christianity in Latin America? What do I remember about the New Deal? What do I remember about westward expansion? Whatever the topic of the prompt is, start brainstorming information about the topic, about the time period, all right, before you even start to glance at the evidence. All right, think about how you might answer the prompt if there was no evidence provided. All right, in doing so, not only will you start to sort of brainstorm potential thesis, potential sort of arguments, but you might also end up brainstorming potential outside evidence. in this process, because you're just thinking about the topic and the time period, you might end up finding something that's relevant. All right. But make sure you spend a couple minutes doing this. You might be really anxious to start. You might be really anxious to like scroll through the documents, but don't. All right. Just take a few minutes sitting in the time period with the topic. All right. Brainstorming information. All right. Maybe even finding that time period on like a little cheat sheet or a little resource that you have. All right. Maybe even finding that topic in your historical development notes or the key concepts. All right. Take a few minutes to do that first. All right. Before you even start analyzing evidence. All right. You will be surprised what you can come up with. And again, the College Board used to ask DBQ prompts about topics that were not sort of part of your historical developments or key concepts. All right. The College Board is now asking, all right, about topics that we have studied in class. So they're not going to like ask you about cricket and nationalism like they used to do 5 years ago. Yeah, that was a real prompt for AP World 1 year. It was like the effect of cricket on nationalism. Cricket is a British sport, similar to baseball. So the College Board used to ask all types of funky prompts, but they no longer do that. All right, they will ask you about a topic that we have studied. So you should, upon seeing the prompt, be able to think of some relevant information. All right, and I suggest having some scratch paper out for the exam. All right, I know it's a virtual exam, but having like a good clean workspace, having something to record information on is going to be super, super helpful. All right, this is another good screen, a screenshot. We are about to go to our Teams pages. So I'm going to work with each group individually over the next couple of hours. So I'm actually going to start with APUSH. My AP World folks. All right, after I start our call, all right, I recommend doing your historical development notes for 3.10 to 3.13. All right. It will help you a little bit with the DBQ that we're about to do. But more than anything, I would imagine that some of us haven't even started recording notes. And so that might help get you a head start. Remember that those notes for period 3 are going to be due on Friday, the day of your unit exam. So you might want to spend some time doing that. All right. If you owe me imperialism handouts, all right, you can do that too. All right, APUSH, as soon as we start the call, we're actually going to start breaking down a DBQ together. All right, once I'm done breaking down the DBQ with APUSH, all right, APUSH will have some work time, and then AP World, I'll be hopping on your call to go ahead and go through a DBQ with you guys. AP World, your DBQ is also a graded assignment, all right, for class. All right, so be sure to hang out for the entire tutorial, because we're going to be breaking it down together. So like, that's a huge potential advantage for you guys. Not only will we get maybe a good chunk of the DBQ done, so you don't have to worry about it for homework, all right, but you'll be sure that you're scoring some good points too, because we're going to be sort of working on it as a whole group. Questions, comments, concerns before we break off into teams, on teams. I gotta wait awkwardly long because there's a delay on YouTube. Freaking YouTube. Questions? Well, A push, I'm about to start the call, so if that's our only question, then we're in good shape. Alrighty, I guess I'll see y'all on Teams. Deuces.